I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy, so I guess I'll just go ahead and sound crazy. Um, when I was a little baby, when I first started talking, I tried to tell my parents that I had a conversation with God before I came down to earth. And God told me that a lot of people were going to die when I was 35 years old. I was born in 1986. I'm going to be 35 in a few months. The way things are going, that was a highly accurate prediction. And I remember when I was up there was a lot of other souls that had the opportunity to come down and try to warn people what was going to happen. And they didn't want that responsibility. They didn't want to do it. Right now, I kind of wish I didn't do it either, because I am failing miserably at my mission. I don't mean to make excuses, but for a long time I forgot, because it's hard to remember things through the process of being a baby. And on top of that, I was not in a healthy environment as a child. I received a lot of head trauma. Some of it was my parents' fault. Some of it was directly because of them. Abuse. Some of it was my brother and sister's fault. Because of them, my parents didn't protect me from them. They were a lot bigger and older than I was. And some of it was my fault, because I'd hit my head on stuff, as kids do, and I rode bikes and skateboards and played sports and all that, and there's going to be accidents that happen. So for a long time I forgot, and I only barely remembered. I tried to tell my parents, and they didn't. They actually told me to stop talking. Don't say that. Stop talking about that. You're not allowed to talk about this anymore. Don't say that to anybody. When I tried to warn them that a lot of people were going to die when I was 35, and I tried to tell them that it was going to be disease and it was going to be war, which to me, why would a child as young as I was even know about those things? The only way I could have known about it was if somebody told me, and somebody did tell me. And it was the thing we call God that told me that, because my parents had never had a conversation with me about diseases or about war. That's how young I was. I was no more than 3. My parents were together when I tried to tell them this, but my parents divorced when I was 3. So you guys got to understand that I was literally, this is some of the first words ever out of my mouth. The first sentences I ever made was me trying to warn my parents that this was going to happen, and they told me to not talk about it anymore. And I know I'm a comedian and this, that, and the other thing. I like to make jokes and stuff, but this is not a joke. And I was only able to remember recently because I was fasting, and I think fasting brought my memories back, and doing artwork brought my memories back. I was using parts of my brain that I hadn't used in a long time, and that, the fasting, and trying to get mentally healthy. I was focused on getting mentally healthy. That's what I've been doing for, I don't know, the past year or so, 2 years maybe. I was trying to get healthy mentally, because I thought I was healthy mentally, but I was not. And in the process of getting mentally healthy, I my memories started to come back to me, whether that I lost them from concussions and head trauma, or I had blocked them out because they were too difficult to keep, basically, as a coping mechanism. I don't know what to do with the information. When I spoke to God, my plan was to become famous in some sort of way and use my platform to tell the people that what was going to happen. And I failed miserably. I was supposed to warn you guys about all this stuff 2 years ago so we could get out ahead of it. I was supposed to, if I was going to be successful at this mission, it was going to be 2 years ago that I was successful, not right now. I've already failed. I still think there's a chance that some people can be saved. That's why I'm making this video. And it's we've already had so many people die from COVID, the COVID lockdowns, the suicides, the loss of jobs, food prices are going up. They're talking about hyperinflation. I just don't see things getting better. I don't see things getting better at all. I think things are getting worse. I don't know what else to do. I only started remembering about a few weeks ago is when my memories started coming back to me. No, one specifically about when I spoke to God before I came down. That only came back to me, maybe a month or two ago. And I've been trying to come up with a way to express it to people and try to get my word out as much as possible. And I'm drawing blanks. I don't know what to do. The key here is that you don't let your soul get away from you. One of the biggest, and I'm not religious. I've never been religious. I didn't go to church. For a long time, I didn't think God existed. I would tell people that God's not real. Atheism, religion is for stupid people. That's how much I had forgotten. Not only did I forget that I had spoken to God, I completely lost any idea of God being real, or the thing we call God is a better way to express it, because very little of the Bible is true based on what I've seen and based on the conversation I had before I came down here. The Bible is written by man. God didn't write the Bible. He has little or nothing to do with the Bible. To be honest, I don't even know if he knows the Bible exists. A lot of people think one of the biggest arguments atheists have is how, if God is real, how can he tolerate so much evil and negativity on earth? The starving children, the sex trafficking, just the sheer nastiness that happens on earth. How could God, if he's so great, how could he let that happen? What I remember now is that God's main responsibility is souls, not life. Okay? There's a difference between you and your soul. There's a difference between your physical body and your soul. There's a difference between your life here on earth and what your soul is before and after you leave earth. Our life experience is just a tiny amount of what our souls will deal with in time and before we came here. A lot of people when they talk about their past lives, they always say that they're a king or a queen, or they were some famous or great being before they were this life, or now they're basically just another human, another average person. Those people are full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. Statistically, that's impossible. There's 7 billion souls on the planet. 7.5, 8 billion? What are we at? There's 8 billion souls on the planet, and if you took all the people who thought they've had past lives, and all those people were a king at one time, or a queen at one time, or an emperor, or something like that, there's not enough kings and emperors that have existed for all these people to actually be that. It might have been another human, then that human didn't really, was just another average human like everybody else. They might have been a fish, they might have been a dog, they might have been a cockroach. There is a lot of bullshit going on when people talk about these things. And the thing that we call God it's not an old man with a beard and a robe. It's an energy. It's an extremely powerful energy. Bright white, opaque white light. You can't see through the other side of it. You can't see beyond it. You can't see past it unless you move around it. And you can ask it questions, and it blasts you with like a shock wave, you can see the answer emanating towards you, like it's like a shock wave. Like you Google shock waves, or type it into YouTube, and you'll see what I mean. It's just a visible energy emanating in 360 degrees, and it blasts you with all the information based on the question you asked it, and you completely understand it in that moment it hits you, and you know that it's absolute, and you know that there's no point in arguing it. It doesn't read your mind. They don't read your mind up there, but they also know when you're lying, so they don't need to read your mind, if that makes sense. There's not really verbal communication. There's the message you project out, and then they know if that message is bullshit or not. I came down here with the responsibility of spreading that message, and I failed. But what I was supposed to tell you is that there is evil at work. There is evil at work on this world, and that evil is responsible for the deaths that are currently unfolding and are about to unfold or happen. I don't know if it's too late or not. It's too late for all the people who've already died, but I don't think it's too late for the rest of us. And when I say a lot, I mean like half of all humans, half of all life maybe will be dead. And I know I said that God isn't really concerned with our life here. So why would he send me down to warn you that so many people are going to die if I just told you that our lifetime on earth isn't all that important to him? Well, what is important to him is our eternal soul. The energy we call God has a lot more emphasis and responsibility to our eternal souls than the energy does to our lifetimes as humans on this planet, or as animals on this planet. And the people are losing faith. The people don't believe in the energy. The people don't believe in the thing we call God anymore. And God doesn't want to lose your souls to evil, because once your soul has gone to evil, it does not come back. It doesn't return. So the thing we call God will lose billions of souls that will not join him in the afterlife of what we experience on earth. I've heard people mention a slate court, a courtroom like we see here on earth. That's what I believe somebody had a memory of the slate court, and then our current court system is kind of constructed and modeled after that, except up there it all seemed like it was slate stone, dark gray slate stone everywhere, the floor, the walls, the judge's seat, or whatever they call it. And the thing we call St. Peter, or the thing that's been named St. Peter, that judges you, that decides if you'll be allowed into heaven or not, is up there. But Peter, the thing we call St. Peter, exists as an energy too. It's not a man with a robe with a book in front of him that has all of your deeds written down on it. It's a scan. St. Peter can scan you. Not only does he scan, and there's other energies up there, but they're not as important as the thing we call, or the thing that resembles the description of St. Peter. Not in the same way. You can communicate with it, but not in the same way you do with the thing we call God. It's more of it's a less powerful energy. The power of what we call St. Peter is not much more powerful than our own energy, but its responsibility is that it scans you, and it scans your memories, it scans your entire life. But you have to agree to it, basically. Say, why do you think you get to be in here? Why should we bring you to heaven and not send you to hell? And you agree to that scan, because you end up in the other place if you don't. And and you're allowed to express yourself. And it's more about, for the most part, based on what I can tell, it's more about why you did the things you do in your life, and not the individual deeds themselves. If you did things because you thought you were being good, or you thought it was the right thing to do, it's kind of more important than the act itself. And they can tell if you're selfish, or if you're entitled, or if you're trying to deceive them, if you're remorseful, if you're humble, if you realize your mistakes, is what it's more about. At least based off what I saw, and what I can tell, and what I remember. I guess that's about it. I don't really know what else to say. We have to exit ourselves from the evil people who control us. The day I recorded this video, the Catholic Church, somebody found there's a Catholic church or something like that, or some sort of orphanage or something, with over 200 children's corpses. Okay? Like in the Catholic Church. So Going to church isn't going to solve this problem. I think most of these organized religions are the work of the devil. They're the work of evil, because they accept money from the poor and they don't give it back. They use it for themselves. They use it for their own interests. All these rich super pastors are evil. Anybody who seeks power on that level is an evil person. Nobody should strive to be rich and powerful and have influence over thousands of people, millions of people, whatever it is. That is a sign of evil. We're supposed to be humble, and we're supposed to walk our own path and be as kind to each other as possible. I think the Bible itself is the original false idol. And say, do not worship false idols in my place. But that's exactly what the Bible is. The Christian Bible, the St. James Bible, whatever you want to call it, it is not real. It is so inaccurate and so false. The only part of that entire book that matters is Jesus. And everybody wants to talk about all the other books and chapters in the Bible, but they are not important. What only matters is what Jesus said. And I don't even know if Jesus is a direct son of God or whatever. He was just accurate in what he knew they would want out of you to be accepted into heaven. Being rich is a sin. Having excess money, having so much money in your bank account that other people can't earn that money, that's a sin. Not being kind to your neighbors, that's a sin. Not being accepting of people with disabilities, that's a sin. Not being generous to people who need it, that's a sin. That's the gist of it, man. We don't need that whole book. We don't need to go to Bible study and church every week. Church is inside you. Church is not a structure. It is inside you. It is a place you go to inside yourself to be closer to God, or the thing we call God. The original false idols are the churches and the pastors and the preachers, and they're hustlers, man. They're hustlers. Every single one of them. Some of them have pure intentions, but at the end of the day, they're evil, and they just don't know it yet. It's so false. It's so you drinking wine, and that's the blood of Christ, and you eat a cracker, and that's the flesh of Christ. What? That doesn't make any damn sense. It doesn't make any damn sense whatsoever. These little practices and traditions we have is paganism, man. It's pagan shit. It's not real. The energy we call God doesn't give a fuck about any of that. He doesn't give a fuck if I cuss. That's not a sin. That's a word. It's ridiculous. We have to step away from any type of worship or servitude towards the rich. The rich are. That was one of the things Jesus was the most against, was this feverish acquisition of wealth. It's one thing to feed your family. It's one thing to feed. Obviously you gotta collect money to feed your family and look out for yourself and have your own welfare. But as far as living in the mansion, several cars, fancy rich people cars, like $100,000 cars, private jets. All that's a fucking sin, man. It's all a sin. These artists and celebrities, but most important, these politicians, man. All of them. Every leader of these nations that tax you and then give your money to other people and try to establish laws that you need to live by, that's a sin. We need to stop worshiping them. We need to stop giving their words more credence than anybody else's because they have that money. They're so far from the truth and the reality of this world. You're lost. You're lost. If that's what you believe, if you follow them, you're lost. You're not on your own path, you're on their path. And God didn't send you here to follow their path, He sent you to follow yours. We gotta get away from it right now. Right now, before it's too late. A lot of people have already died because this virus with a 99.9 whatever survival rate that is more dangerous if you're obese or you have diabetes or something like that. Well, first of all, obesity is greed. It's gluttony. You're wrong. You're living in sin, You by eating more food than is necessary to sustain yourself, you're living in sin. And this virus is taking those people. And we are not at the number. Way more people are going to die. And I don't know if it's because of this disease, this virus that's going around, or the way we're reacting to it, where we're not letting people work their jobs and follow their dreams and passions because they have to abide by these rules that the politicians are putting on us. It's no good. It's no good. They're saying now that it came from a laboratory. There's a possibility that this virus came from a lab and it's not natural. Before that, they thought it came from a wet market. Well, the wet market is cruelty. These wet markets, they create cruelty on the animals. That's not God's intention. Whether it came from a laboratory or it came from a wet market is kind of irrelevant because both instances are sins against God's creations. The manipulating of nature or the abuse of it. Look at mad cow disease. That we chopped up dead cows and fed them back to the cows, and that's how you get mad cow disease. That's a sin, man. You can't do that. You can't feed animals to themselves. They're herbivores. There's too much violations of what their creators' actual intentions were for us. We're supposed to live in harmony with the creatures and the plants of Earth. That doesn't mean we have to be vegan. That means we have to, if we're going to eat an animal, we have to use 100% of it. And there's no point to killing a healthy specimen. People go out and they want to kill the biggest, strongest buck with the most points on its antlers or whatever, but that's kind of stupid. We should be letting those creatures thrive. And we should be taking out the older ones or the less capable of the species. You got to do it now. I'm already too late. And based off things I've seen up there, I'm not the only person who's been given this message. There's fictional works that aren't as fictional as you think they are. But I think there's other people who have allowed their memories of their conversations with the Creator to fall by the wayside, and it's manifesting in their artwork. Because I hear other people say things that are more accurate than they know. You gotta stop trusting the rich and powerful people. You need to evaluate why they chose to achieve that amount of money. A lot of people they use the wrong words. They say stuff like Bill Gates made $1 billion. Bill Gates didn't make any money. He doesn't make money. He takes money. He takes money that you can't have it as long as he has it. That goes for all the super rich people. That goes for all the politicians. They don't make money. They take it. They take it from you. Sometimes we give it over to them voluntarily because we like a service or an invention that they created. But beyond that, they don't need those billions and billions and billions of dollars. They don't need to be that rich. They need enough money for themselves and their children, that's it. And you need to question why you're allowing those greedy money takers to live such lavish lifestyles, and why you obey their words, why you say, oh, if I'm more like this person, I could be rich too, and if I'm more like that person, then I can be rich. Well, that's wrong. You might become rich, but you're not living correctly. You're not living on the proper path. You're following somebody else's. And that's not what you were put on here for. Why would there be 7 billion people on this planet if we were all supposed to follow the same path? There would be no point to that. There would be one person, and they would follow that path, and that's their path. But there's 7 billion of us, so it doesn't make any sense for 7 billion of us to all try to get rich and become powerful and have power over each other. That doesn't make any sense for all of us to do that. It doesn't make sense for any of us to do that, to be honest with you. There's no point to being that rich, to having that much money. It's greed. It's greed. And greed is not good. You're not supposed to be so rich that you're fat and your neighbor is skinny. It's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to have a giant house with a gate out in front so the poor and the starving cannot come in. That's not supposed to happen. Why do I drive by a church at night and I see homeless people sleeping on the front steps? Is that supposed to happen? Does that sound like it's in line with what Jesus or anybody would say? Any type of holy person, if they're truly holy, how can that occur? It's the politicians, it's the churches, it's the celebrities, it's the dictators, the emperors, all of the people that allow themselves to acquire these riches. They need to be rebuked, for lack of a better word. We need to stop just following in their words for us and assuming that their money and their power makes them more intelligent than we are, or that they're living in a more correct way than we are. It's no good. It's no good at all. Jesus' most important quote was that it is easier to ride a camel through the eye of a needle than it is to be rich and get into heaven. But that is the most ignored quote